Hey fellow nerds, today we are going to learn properties of discrete time Fourier series. We will be covering linearity, time shifting, frequency shifting, conjugate property, time reversal, time scaling, periodic convolution, multiplication, first difference, running sum, conjugate symmetry for real signals, real and even signals, real and odd signals, even or decomposition of real signals, and Parseval's relation. Let us start with linearity property. According to this property, if x of n and y of n are periodic with the period n and the Fourier series coefficients of x of n are ak, Fourier series coefficients of y of n are bk, then the Fourier series coefficients of ax of n plus by of n is going to be aak plus bbk. Let us try to prove this. Fourier series coefficients of the signal x of n, ak can be written like this: 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n. The same way we can define bk, which is the Fourier series coefficients of y of n. It will be equal to 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, y of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Let us call the Fourier series coefficients of ax of n plus by of n ck. Then ck will be equal to 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values. The function is ax of n plus by of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Let us split this into two terms. The first one will be 1 by n summation n takes n consecutive integer values, ax of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n plus the second term will be 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, by of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Here a and b are constants, so they can come out of the summation. Now you can easily see this whole thing is nothing but ak and this whole thing is nothing but bk. So we can write ck is equal to ak plus bk. So the Fourier series coefficients of ax of n plus by of n is going to be aak plus bbk. Let us go to the next property, time shifting. If x of n is periodic with a period n and x of n has Fourier series coefficients ak, then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of x of n minus n naught is going to be e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n naught multiplied by ak. Let's try to prove this. We know ak can be written like this: 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. X of n minus n naught is the time shifted version of x of n. So if x of n is periodic with n, then x of n minus n naught will also be periodic with n. So we can write bk is equal to 1 divided by, still the period is n, so we write n, summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, function is x of n minus n naught e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Let us do the trick that we always do. Take n minus n naught is equal to m. Then we can write bk is equal to 1 by n summation. If n can take any n consecutive integer values, so m will also be taking n consecutive integer values. For example, let us assume n is taking values 0, 1, 2 and 3 and n naught is 1. then m will be taking values 0 minus 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1 0, 2 minus 1 1, 3 minus 1 2. So since n is taking 4 consecutive integer values, m is also taking 4 consecutive integer values. So here we can write m taking any n consecutive integer values. X of n minus n naught becomes x of m e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n becomes m plus n naught. Here we have e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n multiplied by m plus n naught. We can split it into two terms. E raised to minus j k 2 pi by n into m multiplied by e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n into n naught. Here the summation is with respect to the variable m. E raised to minus jk 2 pi by n naught doesn't have anything to do with m, so it can come out of the summation. Again, we know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are going to give the limit anyways. So instead of calling this m, let us call it n. We have a 1 by n over here, let us put it closer to the summation. Now what we have over here is simply AK, Fourier series coefficients of x of n. So we get BK is equal to e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n naught multiplied by AK, which is exactly what we have written over here. Let's go to the next property, frequency shifting. Assume you have a signal x of n and it is periodic with the period n. The Fourier series coefficients of x of n are called AK. Then according to this property, AK minus m is going to be the Fourier series coefficients of e raised to j m 2 pi by n multiplied by x of n. Or we can write the other way. The Fourier series coefficients of e raised to j m 2 pi by n x of n is going to be a k minus m. Let us try to prove this. Fourier series coefficients of x of n, a k can be written like this: 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n. We want to find an expression for bk being the Fourier series coefficients of e raised to j m into 2 pi by n multiplied by x of n. Here we are multiplying x of n with an exponential function that is not going to change its periodicity. So period of this function is also going to be n. So we can write bk is equal to 1 by the period n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values. Function is e to the power j m 2 pi by n multiplied by x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. We have two exponentials. We can combine them by adding their exponents. So we get 1 by n summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values. X of n is there. Then we get e raised to minus j k minus m 2 pi by n. If you compare this equation with this one, you can see the only difference is instead of k, here we have k minus m. When you had k, you called it ak. So when you have k minus m, you should be calling it ak minus m. This is exactly what we have written over here. The next property we have to learn is conjugate property. Assume we have a signal x of n, it is periodic with n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are ak. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of x conjugate of n is going to be conjugate of a minus k. Let us try to prove this. We know ak is 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n. Let us take the conjugate of this. Ak conjugate is going to be, I'll have to take conjugate of x of n, and over here we have e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. I'll have to take its conjugate. So to take the conjugate, I'll have to change minus j to plus j. So this is going to be 1 by n summation, where n can take any n consecutive integer values. Instead of x of n, I will write x conjugate of n. Then e raised to plus jk 2 pi by n. This is conjugate of ak. Now I want conjugate of a minus k. All I have to do is change k in this equation into minus k. So we get 1 by n summation, where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x conjugate of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. I got minus here because k became minus k. Now if you compare this equation with this equation, only difference is instead of x of n here, we have x conjugate of n. So if ak is the Fourier series coefficient of x of n, then conjugate of a minus k will be the Fourier series coefficients of x conjugate of n. That is exactly what we have written over here. Let's go to the next property, time reversal. Assume we have a signal x of n and it is periodic with a period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n is denoted as ak. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of x of minus n is going to be a minus k. Let us try to prove this. We know ak is given by 1 by n summation, where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Let's call the Fourier series coefficients of x of minus n bk. We need an expression for bk. First of all, when we take x of minus n, we are taking time reversal. This is not going to change the periodicity of the signal. So if x of n is periodic with n, its time reversal is also going to be periodic with n. So to write bk, we can still take 1 divided by period n. Summation, where n can take any n consecutive integer values. The function is x of minus n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Let us apply our trick. Take minus n is equal to m. Then bk becomes 1 by n summation. If n is taking n consecutive integer values, then m, which is minus n, will also take n consecutive integer values. For example, if n is taking 0, 1, 2, then m will be taking 0, minus 1, minus 2. These are also consecutive, these are also integers. So we can write m takes any n consecutive integer values. X of minus n will become x of m e raised to minus and n together will become m. So we get e raised to plus jk 2 pi by n m. We have plus k over here. I am going to write it as minus of minus k. Now, if you compare this equation with this equation, you can see the only difference is here we have k, here we have minus k. So if you called this one ak, then this one should be a minus k. So Fourier series coefficients for x of minus n is going to be a minus k. Let's go to the next property, time scaling. Assume you have a signal x of n that is periodic with a period n. We want a time scaled version of x of n. Let us call it xm of n. Xm of n is a time scaled version of x of n, so we need it to be periodic with a period m multiplied by n. First of all, let us try to understand what this means for the signal. For that, I will take an example. Let's take x of n to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So obviously it is repeating every 2 terms. So its period is going to be 2. I'm going to take m equals 2. So I need a new signal. I'm going to call it xm of n. I need its period to be nm, that is 4. What I'm going to do is I will take x of n divided by m. I'll show you how these are equal. Xm of 0 is going to be x of 0 divided by m. M here is 2. This is going to be x of 0. From here we can see the 0th term is 1. Assuming this is the 0th term. Then we get this is equal to 1. I want xm of 1, the first term of xm of n. It is going to be x of 1 divided by 2. But we are dealing with discrete time signals. They have non-zero values only at integer values of n. So at 1 by 2, we don't have anything. Write it as 0. Now I want xm of 2. I am saying it is x of 2 divided by m, which is 2, or x of 1. If you look over here, x of 1 is 2. So this is equal to 2. Now I want xm of 3. This I am saying is x of 3 by 2. But 3 by 2 is 1.5. For a discrete time signal, there is nothing there. So this is equal to 0. Finally, I need xm of 4. I should have used square brackets everywhere since these are discrete time signals. Let us change it. Abracadabra. Yes, I'm a magician. So xm of 4 is going to be x of 4 divided by 2, which is x of 2, which if you check over here, you can see it is 1. Now, if I take xm of 5, I'll have to take x of 5 by 2, but 5 by 2 is not an integer, it will be 0. I want xm of 6, I'll be taking x of 6 by 2 or x of 3. At 3, here we have 2, so I'll get 2. So basically, if I write xm of n, it will look like this. First I have 1, then I have 0, then I have 2, then 0, again 1, then I'll have another 0, another 2, it goes on like that. So you can see it is repeating every 4 terms. 1 0, 2 0, again 1 0, 2 0, which means its period now is 4. What I'm trying to tell you is, if I want to write xm of n, which is periodic with m times the period of our x of n, then you have to take x of n divided by m. Here our m is equal to 2. You can see at 0 we got some value, at 2 we got some value, at 4 also we got some value, but at 1 and 3 we simply got 0. So we can conclude that whenever n is a multiple of our m, we are getting values. Whenever n is not a multiple of our m, we are simply getting 0. So let us define xm of n this way. Xm of n is x of n by m if n is a multiple of the m you're taking, otherwise simply take 0. Let us assume that the Fourier series coefficients of x of n is ak. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of xm of n is going to be 1 by m multiplied by ak. Let us try to prove this. We know what ak is. It is 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values. X of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n n. Let us call the Fourier series coefficients of x m of n bk. Then bk is going to be 1 by mn. I am not writing n, I am writing mn because the period of x m of n is not n, it is mn. So I have to write mn. Summation where n can take any mn consecutive integer values because the period now is mn. Function is x of n by m e raised to minus jk 2 pi divided by mn n. Let us do our trick. Take n by m is equal to p, then n will be equal to mp. If we do that, then bk will become like this: 1 divided by mn summation n is taking any mn consecutive integer values. P is n divided by m, so p will be taking any n consecutive integer values. X of n by m will become x of p e raised to minus jk 2 pi divided by mn. N now is mp. We have an m over here, we have an m over here, they get cancelled. We have 1 by mn. I'll write it as 1 by m multiplied by 1 by n. Now, we know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are going to give the limit. So, instead of p, I will call it n. Now, what we have over here is nothing but ak. So, we can write bk is equal to 1 by m multiplied by ak, which is exactly what we have written over here. Let us go to the next property, periodic convolution. Assume we have two signals x of n and y of n. They are both periodic with a period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are ak and Fourier series coefficients of y of n are bk. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of the periodic convolution of x of n and y of n, that is summation where r can take any n consecutive integer values of the product of x of r, y of n minus r. Usually for convolution, we take the limit minus infinity to infinity, but this is periodic convolution, so we only have to take one period. That is why I have taken r takes any n consecutive integer values where n is the period of x of n and y of n. So Fourier series coefficients of the periodic convolution of x of n and y of n is going to be n multiplied by ak multiplied by bk. Let us try to prove this. X of n can be written like this: summation where k can take any n consecutive integer values, ak e raised to jk 2 pi by n, n. Y of n also has the same period, so let me write y of n is equal to summation. Instead of k, I will take a different variable so that when we take the convolution, I can see which terms came from x of n, which terms came from y of n. So I'll take the variable m. M can take any n consecutive integer values, bm e raised to jm 2 pi by n, n. I have still taken n because the period of y of n is also n. Now let us define a signal z of n. Z of n is the periodic convolution of x of n and y of n. So it is the summation where r can take any n consecutive integer values, x of r, y of n minus r. So this becomes summation where r takes any n consecutive integer values. I want x of r. I have x of n. To get x of r, I will just change n into r. So I get this. Instead of n, I have put r. I want y of n minus r. I have y of n. So to get y of n minus r, I have to change n over here into n minus r. Then I will get this. Instead of n, I have put n minus r. We have three summations in this expression. Let us take all of them together. Now let us change their order. Consider this whole thing. Let us take it out. We have e raised to jm into 2 pi by n into n minus r over here. Let us split this into 2. We'll get e raised to jm 2 pi by n into n multiplied by e raised to jm 2 pi by n into minus r, or we can put the negative over here. Here we have e raised to j into 2 pi by n into r multiplied by k. Here we have e raised to j 2 pi by n into r multiplied by minus m. We can combine them by adding their exponents. They will become e raised to j k minus m multiplied by 2 pi by n r. Let us put ak and bm together and the exponentials together. Now we can put them back over here in this equation instead of this term. The innermost summation is with respect to the term r, ak bm e raised to jm into 2 pi by n into n. All of these doesn't have anything to do with r. They all can come out of that summation. Let us consider this summation now. There are two cases. We have k minus m here. Either k could be equal to m or k could be not equal to m. Let us see what happens if k is not equal to m. Then we are taking the summation over one period of e raised to j something. I'm just going to call it omega. E raised to j omega according to Euler's formula is cos omega plus j sin omega. So we are taking the summation over one period of cos omega plus j sin omega. But what is the summation of cos omega across one time period? It is 0. What is the summation of sin omega across one period? It is also 0. So if k is not equal to m, this is simply going to be equal to 0. What if k is equal to m? Then we are taking the summation over one period of e raised to k is equal to m, so this becomes 0, e raised to 0. Or we are taking the summation where r can take any n consecutive integer values of 1. Basically, you are adding 1 plus 1 plus 1. How many times? N times. So this is going to be n. So we can write this summation is going to be n if k is equal to m. It is 0 if k is not equal to m. So we only have to take the case where k is equal to m. So we got this huge equation for z of n, but over here we only have to take the case where k is equal to m. When k is equal to m, this is simply equal to n. Let us replace it with n. We have two summations here. Summation where k takes n consecutive integer values, summation where m takes n consecutive integer values. But k is equal to m, which means we don't have to write it two times. Let us remove one of them. Let us take n from here and put it with ak and bm. Again, k is equal to m. So over here instead of m, we can write k. Over here also instead of m, we can write k. Now let us compare this equation with the equation of x of n. The only difference is instead of ak here, we have n ak bk. So if ak is the Fourier series coefficients of x of n, then n ak bk should be that of z of n. That is exactly what we have written over here. Fourier series coefficients for the periodic convolution of x of n and y of n is n multiplied by ak bk, where n is the period of x of n and y of n. Let's go to the next property, multiplication. Assume we have two signals x of n and y of n. They are both periodic with a period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are denoted as ak and that for y of n are denoted as bk. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of the product x of n, y of n is going to be summation where L can take any n consecutive integer values of ak bk minus L. Basically, you can see this is the periodic convolution of ak and bk. Let us try to prove this. X of n can be written like this, summation where L can take any n consecutive integer values, al e raised to j L 2 pi by n n. I have taken L for the same reason as before. I want to distinguish the terms that come from x of n. Let us write y of n. For y of n, I am taking the variable m. M can take any n consecutive integer values. Bm e raised to j m 2 pi divided by n n. Let us define another signal z of n. Z of n is the product of x of n and y of n. So it will be like this. There are two summations, so let us put them together. Let us put AL and BM together. Now we can combine these two exponentials by adding their exponents. We get e raised to j L plus m 2 pi by n. Now let us do our trick. Take L plus m is equal to k. Then we can write m is equal to k minus L. If we use this, z of n can be written like this. Summation m takes any n consecutive integer values. Summation L takes any n consecutive integer values. I have changed the order of summation. Here m can take any n consecutive integer values. K is m plus something. So k will also be able to take n consecutive integer values. So instead of writing m is taking n consecutive integer values, I will write k is taking n consecutive integer values. Now we can write AL. BM will be written as BK minus L because m now is k minus L. E raised to j L plus m is k, so we can write k 2 pi by n. Let us compare this equation with this equation. The only difference is here we have AL, here we have the periodic convolution of AL and BL. So if AL is the Fourier series coefficients of x of n, then this whole thing will be the Fourier series coefficients of z of n. So we can conclude that the Fourier series coefficients of the product x of n y of n is going to be the discrete time convolution of the individual coefficients ak and bk, and it is restricted to n consecutive samples. Normally when we take convolution, we take from minus infinity to infinity. Here we are only taking for one time period. So this is called periodic convolution. If you are taking from minus infinity to infinity, it is called aperiodic convolution. So over here, we are taking the discrete time periodic convolution of AK and BK to get the Fourier series coefficients of the product of x of n and y of n. Let us go to the next property, first difference. First difference in discrete time domain is analogous to differentiation in continuous time domain. Assume we have a signal x of n. It is periodic with period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are denoted as ak. Then according to this property, Fourier series coefficients of x of n minus x of n minus 1 is going to be 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by ak. The proof of this property is pretty simple. By time shifting property, we have learned the Fourier series coefficients of x of n minus n naught is e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n naught ak. Here we have x of n minus 1. We can write for x of n minus 1, the Fourier series coefficients are going to be e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n naught here is 1, so this multiplied by ak. So Fourier series coefficients of x of n is ak. For x of n minus 1, it is e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by ak. Here we want the Fourier series coefficients of x of n minus x of n minus 1. So we can easily apply linearity property. By linearity property, the Fourier series coefficients of x of n minus x of n minus 1 is going to be Fourier series coefficients of x of n ak minus that of x of n minus 1 e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n ak. Or by taking ak as common, we can write 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by ak. Let us go to the next property, running sum. Running sum in discrete time domain is analogous to integration in continuous time domain. Assume we have a signal x of n that is periodic with the period n. X of n has Fourier series coefficients ak. Then according to this property, if we take the summation where k can take any value from minus infinity to n of x of n, then its Fourier series coefficients are going to be 1 divided by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by ak. Before we prove this, there is something else we need to understand. Running sum is only periodic if a0 is equal to 0. The first question is, why do we need the running sum to be periodic? Because we are talking about discrete time Fourier series. Fourier series is only applicable to periodic signals. So it is important that the running sum satisfies the criteria for being periodic. Now, why is it periodic if a0 is equal to 0? What is the importance of a0? We know ak is given by the expression 1 by n, summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. From here, we can write what is a0. To get a0, we have to put k is equal to 0. Then this term will become e raised to 0, which is 1. So we get a0 is equal to 1 by n, summation where n can take any consecutive n integer values of x of n. We are taking the summation of x of n over one period. Then we divide it by n, which is the number of terms in one period. So basically, a0 is nothing but the average of the signal in one period. So when we say a0 is equal to 0, what we are saying is the average value of the signal in one period should be equal to 0 for the running sum to be periodic. Let us see two examples to understand why. For the first example, I have taken a signal like this: 1, minus 2, 3, minus 2, 1, minus 2, 3, minus 2. You can see its period is 4. It keeps repeating every 4 terms. Let us try to write its running sum. For the first term in running sum, I just have to take 1. So I'll get 1. For the next term, I have to add 1 to minus 2. So I'll get minus 1. For the next term, I have to add 3 to the sum of these two. So I get 2. For the next term, I have to add minus 2 to the sum of these 3, and it is 0. For the next sum, I'll be adding 1 to the sum of all these, but the sum of all these is 0. We got it over here. So the next term is again going to be 1. For the next term, I'll be adding minus 2 to the sum of all these, but the sum of these 4 is already 0. So basically you are adding minus 2 to 1. You get minus 1. Then you add 3 to the sum of these two. You get 2. So you can see the running sum is repeating. You got 1 minus 1, 2, 0. You will again get 1 minus 1, 2, 0. Because for the fourth term, when you added all these 4 terms, you got 0. So from the next term, you are starting to count again. In the case of this signal, if we calculate the average value in one period, it is going to be 1 plus minus 2 plus 3 plus minus 2 divided by total number of terms in one period, it is 4. But we already got that their sum is 0. So this is going to be 0 by 4 or 0. So in this case, a0, which is the average value of the signal in one period, is equal to 0. Let us take another example where the average value in one period is not equal to 0 and check if the running sum is periodic or not. Here my signal has 1, 2, 3, minus 2, 1, 2, 3, minus 2. This is also periodic. But if you add all 4 terms here, 1 plus 2 plus 3 minus 2, you will be getting 4. 4 divided by the number of terms 4 is equal to 1. So in this case, a0 is not equal to 0, it is equal to 1. Let us check what is the running sum coming to be. For the first term, I will just take 1. For the second term, I will add 2 to 1. I get 3. For the third term, I'll add 3 to the sum of 1 and 2. So I get 6. For the fourth term, I'll add minus 2 to the sum of all these 3. So I get 4. The next term will be 1 added to the sum of all of these. So 1 plus 4, 5. The next term is going to be 2 added to the sum of all of these. It's going to be 2 plus 5, 7. So basically this just goes on like that. You can see it is never going to repeat. Numbers just keep getting added. So the conclusion is the running sum will be periodic only if the average value of the signal in one period becomes 0, so that from the next term you'll be doing the same counting again. So to continue with the proof, let us assume that the running sum we are taking is periodic and its A0 is equal to 0. In that case, according to this property, the Fourier series coefficients are going to be 1 by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n ak. We know how to define ak. It is 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values, x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n n. Here n can take any n consecutive integer values. So to do this proof, let us take it from 0 to n minus 1. Since we are also considering 0, there will be n terms from 0 to n minus 1. Let's take the summation to be from n equal to 0 to n minus 1. Let us take bk to be the Fourier series coefficients of our running sum. So we can define it like this: 1 by n summation from n equal to 0 to n minus 1. Function will be the running sum. Since we are already going to take a k over here, instead of this k, I will take m, because we already know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are giving the limits anyway. So as the function, I will take summation where m can take any value from minus infinity to n, x of m e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n n. There are two summations here. Let us change their order. Here the summation is with respect to the variable n. X of m is not a function of n, so x of m can come out of the summation. There is a very important concept that we need to understand for the next step. There are two summations. According to this one, n can take any value from 0 to n minus 1. According to this one, m will take any value from minus infinity to n. So for every value n takes according to this summation, m will be taking values from minus infinity to that n. So basically that means m always has to be less than n, because m can only take values between minus infinity to n. So n is the maximum value, or we can write n always has to be greater than m. But according to this summation, n can take only values between 0 to n minus 1. So n should be greater than 0 and n should be less than n minus 1. About the upper limit, there is no confusion. It has to be less than n minus 1. But about the lower limit, there are two conditions. N should be greater than m, n should be greater than 0. Take the case where m is less than 0. M, for example, is minus 2. In that case, what are the values n can take? N should be greater than m, n should be greater than 0. So we will take n is greater than 0, because if n is greater than 0, it will obviously be greater than minus 2 and it will also satisfy this condition. Assume m is greater than 0. For example, m is equal to 2. We need n to satisfy n greater than m and n greater than 0. So over here, we'll be taking n greater than 2. If n is greater than 2, then that means n is greater than m. Also, n is greater than 0. So to include this concept in our equation, what we're going to do is, instead of n equal to 0, we will write n is equal to maximum of m or 0. So if m is less than 0, that is this case, we will take n greater than 0. If 0 is less than m, that is this case, we will take n greater than m. For example, in the first case, we had to take n is equal to maximum of m was minus 2, 0. So we took maximum was 0, we took n greater than 0. In the second case, we had to take n is equal to maximum of 2 or 0. 2 is the maximum, So we took n is greater than 2. So basically we can conclude that if m is less than 0, we take n equal to 0 as the lower limit. When m is greater than 0, we take n equal to m as the lower limit. Let us change the lower limit accordingly. Now that this concept is clear, let us take the inner sum separately. Consider the first case where m is less than 0. If m is less than 0, we have to take the lower limit n equal to 0. Then the inner sum will become summation from n equal to 0 to n minus 1 e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. If you give n equal to 0, e raised to 0 will become 1, plus if you give n equal to 1, you get e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n, plus if you give n equal to 2, e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by 2. Basically, this is a geometric progression and it has n terms from 0 to n minus 1. Sum of a geometric progression with common ratio r and number of terms n is given like this: 1 minus r raised to n divided by 1 minus r. Here n will be n and r will be e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. So we can write the summation: 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n to the power n divided by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. We know a raised to k to the power m is simply a raised to k multiplied by m. So over here e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n whole raised to n will simply be e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by n. Let us change it that way. Here we have a n in the numerator and n in the denominator. So this n and that n will get cancelled. Now this becomes e raised to minus jk 2 pi. Let us use Euler's formula. E raised to minus jk 2 pi is going to be cos k 2 pi minus j sine k 2 pi. K is an integer, so k into 2 pi or 2 pi k is an integer multiple of 2 pi. Cos of an integer multiple of 2 pi is 1. Sine of an integer multiple of 2 pi is 0. So e raised to minus jk 2 pi is 1. That makes the numerator 0. So if m is less than 0, the sum is 0. Basically, pk is 0. Let us take the second case where m is greater than or equal to 0. In this case, we will take the lower limit as n equal to m. Then the inner sum becomes summation from n equals m to n minus 1 of e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. This is also a geometric progression. The only difference is the first term is not e raised to 0, which is 1. The first term is going to be when n is equal to m, that is e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m. The next term is going to be e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m plus 1. We can split this into 2. E raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by m multiplied by e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by 1. You can see the second term is the first term itself multiplied by e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. So here e to the power minus jk 2 pi by n will be our common ratio. First term is e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by m. Now, in case the first term is not 1, the sum of a GP is given like this: a multiplied by 1 minus r raised to n divided by 1 minus r. Here a will be the first term, r is the common ratio, n is the total number of terms. This is our a, this is our r. So we can write the sum is equal to first term a is e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m multiplied by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n to the power n. N is the total number of terms. Here we are counting from m to n minus 1. So the total number of terms is going to be n minus 1, the upper limit, minus the lower limit, plus 1. Assume we are counting from 2 to 4. So we have 2, 3 and 4. The upper limit 4 minus the lower limit 2 is equal to 2. It doesn't give us the total number of terms. It gives us total number of terms minus 1. To get the total number of terms correctly, we have to add a plus 1. 4 minus 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, which is the total number of terms we have between 2 and 4. So over here also, to get the exact number of terms between m and n minus 1, we have to take the upper limit, subtract the lower limit, add a 1 to it. So total number of terms is n minus 1 minus m plus 1, or n minus m. So the power here will be n minus m divided by 1 minus r. So 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. So we got bk is this much and the inner sum is this much. Let us replace the inner sum with what we found over here. Now let us consider the numerator over here. We have to multiply e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m with 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n raised to n minus m. Let's simplify the power first. A raised to k raised to p is simply a raised to k into p. So we can write it like e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by n minus m. Now let us multiply this term with 1 and this term. If we do that, we'll get e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m multiplied by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Here we have m, here we have n minus m. So m plus n minus m. M and minus m gets cancelled. It is simply n. N and n will get cancelled and this will simply become e raised to minus jk 2 pi. Now let us put it back over here. The summation is with respect to the variable m. If you take a look at this denominator, it is 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. It doesn't have anything to do with m, so we can take it out of the summation. Now, this whole thing came from the conclusion that m is greater than or equal to 0. Now, we got all of this from the assumption that m is greater than or equal to 0. So, we will change the lower limit from m equals minus infinity to m equals 0. The upper limit is n, but n can take only values up to n minus 1. So, we have to change the upper limit to n minus 1. Here we have e raised to minus jk 2 pi again. We already did this, but I'll do it again. E raised to minus j 2 pi k, according to Euler's formula, is cos 2 pi k minus j sin 2 pi k. K is an integer, so 2 pi k is an integer multiple of 2 pi. Cos of an integer multiple of 2 pi is 1. Sine of an integer multiple of 2 pi is 0. So this thing is basically just 1. Let us take the whole summation out. Let us bring x of m inside the bracket. Then we'll get x of m e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n m minus x of m. Let us now split the summation into two. Summation of this one minus summation of this one. The second term becomes summation from m equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of m. That is sum of the terms in one period. But we started by saying that the running sum is only periodic if the average value of the signal over one period is equal to 0. So if this is equal to 0, since 1 by n is not equal to 0, this summation should be 0. Summation of x of n over one period should be 0. So over here, if we use that, summation of x of m over one period is going to be equal to 0. So we can replace this whole summation by simply this. Then we can write bk like this. We know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are giving the limits. So instead of calling this m, I'll call it n. So we get 1 by n summation from n equal to 0 to n minus 1, which is summation over one period of x of n a raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. This is nothing but ak. So we get bk is equal to 1 divided by 1 minus e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n multiplied by ak, which is exactly what we have over here. Let's go to the next property, conjugate symmetry for real signals. According to this property, if x of n is a real signal, then ak will be equal to conjugate of a minus k. Real part of ak will be equal to real part of a minus k. Imaginary part of ak will be equal to minus imaginary part of a minus k. Magnitude of ak and magnitude of a minus k will be equal. Phase of ak will be negative of phase of a minus k. The proof of the first one is already done in the previous video. If you don't remember it, I will put the timestamp in the description. So let us start by taking if x of n is real, ak will be equal to conjugate of a minus k. Let's take conjugate on both sides of this equation. Then we get a k conjugate is going to be equal to a minus k. Let it be there. Let us take a general expression for ak, a plus jb. Then a conjugate of k is going to be a minus jb. But according to what we got over here, a conjugate of k will be equal to a minus k. So I will write this is equal to a minus k. ak is a plus jb, a minus k is a minus jb. So we can easily write real part of ak and real part of a minus k are equal. They are both equal to a. This is what we have given over here. Now, imaginary part of AK is B. You can see that over here. Similarly, imaginary part of A minus K from here is minus B. So we can say that imaginary part of AK is minus imaginary part of A minus K, which is what we have given over here. Let's take the magnitude. Magnitude of AK is equal to root of A square plus B square. But since A minus K is A minus GB, its magnitude is going to be root of A square plus minus B whole square, which is again plus B square. So we can write this is equal to magnitude of A minus K. This is what we have written over here. The next thing is phase. Phase of AK will be tan inverse of the imaginary part divided by the real part. Phase of A minus K will be tan inverse of its imaginary part is minus B divided by real part A. Tan inverse of minus B by A is minus tan inverse of B by A. So we can say phase of AK is negative of phase of A minus K, which is what we have written over here. Let's go to the next property. This is for real and even signals. Assume we have a signal x of n, it is periodic with a period n. Its Fourier series coefficients are ak. Then according to this property, if x of n is both real and even, then its coefficients ak is going to be real and even. Let's prove this. X of n can be written like this, summation where k can take any n consecutive integer values, ak e raised to jk 2 pi by n. Then we can write x conjugate of n. To get x conjugate of n, instead of ak, we'll take a conjugate of k, and plus j over here will become minus j. So it will be summation k takes any n consecutive integer values, ak conjugate e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. Now I want x conjugate of minus n. I have x conjugate of n. So to get x conjugate of minus n, I will take n over here, make it minus n. If I put minus n over here, this negative and this negative will cancel and I will get plus. So this becomes summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values, a conjugate of k e raised to plus jk 2 pi by n. Now it is given that x of n is even. That means x of n should be equal to x of minus n. It is also given that x of n is real. So this should be equal to x conjugate of minus n also. We have x of n over here, x conjugate of minus n over here. The only difference between them is here we have ak, here we have a conjugate of k. So if they are equal, that means ak should be equal to a conjugate of k. Let's write it down. ak is equal to conjugate of ak, which basically means ak is real. Now let's write what is x of minus n. We have x of n here. To get x of minus n, find n, make it minus n. Then we get summation where k can take any n consecutive integer values. ak e raised to, since n becomes minus n, we get minus jk 2 pi by n. Let's do the trick that we always do. I'm going to take m is equal to minus k. If k is taking any n consecutive integer values, then minus k is also taking n consecutive integer values. So we'll get this is equal to summation where m takes any n consecutive integer values. Ak becomes a minus m. E raised to minus k over here can be replaced by m. So we get e raised to j m 2 pi by n. But we know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are giving the limit, which is m here. I will call it k itself. So I get summation where k can take any n consecutive integer values, a minus k e raised to jk 2 pi by n. This is x of minus n. X of n is even. So x of n should be equal to x of minus n. Comparing x of n and x of minus n, I can see the only difference is here I have a k, here I have a minus k. So if they are equal, then a k should be equal to a minus k. If a k is equal to a minus k, then a k is even. So we can conclude that if x of n is both real and even, a k is also both real and even. Let's go to the next property. This is for real and odd signals. Assume we have a signal x of n. It is periodic with a period n. Its Fourier series coefficients are ak. According to this property, if x of n is both real and odd, then ak is purely imaginary and odd. Let us try to prove this. We know x of n can be written like this, summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values, a k e raised to j k 2 pi by n. Then we can take the conjugate of it. X conjugate of n will be summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values, a conjugate of k e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n. I'm going to do the trick. I will take m is equal to minus k. So I can write summation m will take any n consecutive integer values, a conjugate of minus m e to the power minus k together can be replaced by m. So I get e raised to j m 2 pi by n. But then it doesn't matter what I'm calling this variable. I'm going to give the limit anyways. So I'll call it k itself. Now x of n is real. So x of n should be equal to x conjugate of n. That means these two are equal. Comparing them, I can see the only difference is here I have ak, here I have a conjugate of minus k. So I get AK should be equal to A conjugate of minus K. When we proved the conjugate symmetry for real signals property, I said I will not prove this result, but accidentally I did prove it. X of n is also odd, so x of n will be equal to minus of x of minus n. So I can write x of n is summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values, a k e raised to j k 2 pi by n n. This should be equal to negative of x of minus n will be summation k takes any n consecutive integer values a k e raised to, instead of n over here I'll be putting minus n, so I'll get a minus j k 2 pi by n n. Let's do the trick again. I'll take m is equal to minus k. Then this becomes negative. M will also be taking n consecutive integer values. AK will become A minus M. E raised to J minus K will become M. 2 pi by n. But it doesn't matter what I'm calling this variable. I'll simply call it K itself. There is a minus over here. I'm going to put it along with A minus K. I'll call it minus A minus K. Now, checking out the right hand side and the left hand side of this equation, I can see there is only one difference. Here I have AK, here I have minus A minus K. So if RHS is equal to LHS, then AK should be equal to minus A minus K. That means AK is odd. Over here we got AK is A conjugate of minus K. If we take conjugate on both sides, we get A conjugate of K is equal to A minus K. So instead of A minus K here, I can write A conjugate of K. So I get AK is equal to minus of A conjugate K. Assume AK is A plus JB. Then A conjugate of K will be A minus JB. Negative of A conjugate of K will be minus A plus JB. According to this relation, these two should be equal. The imaginary part is fine, JB, JB. But real part, here it is A, here it is minus A. If A should be equal to minus A, that means A is 0. That means AK is equal to JB. Its real part should be equal to 0, which means AK is purely imaginary. So we can conclude that if x of n is both real and odd, then AK is purely imaginary and odd. Let's go to the next property. Even and odd decomposition of real signals. Assume we have a real signal x of n. It is periodic with a period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are AK. We have learned that any signal x of n can be written as a summation of its even component and odd component. According to this property, Fourier series coefficients of the even component of x of n will be the real part of AK, and Fourier series coefficient of the odd part of x of n will be j multiplied by imaginary part of AK. Let us try to prove this. We have learned that even part of a signal x of n is x of n plus x of minus n divided by 2. If we use linearity property, we can say the Fourier series coefficient of this is going to be Fourier series coefficient of x of n, ak, plus Fourier series coefficient of x of minus n. Using time reversal property, it is a minus k divided by 2. Now, this property is only for real signals, so x of n is real. If x of n is real, we know A conjugate of k will be equal to A minus k. So instead of A minus k here, I will take A conjugate of k. Now assume AK is A plus JB. Then A conjugate of k will be A minus JB. If you add both of them, the imaginary part will get cancelled, real part get added up. If you divide it by 2, you will get 2a divided by 2, which is equal to a, or the real part of ak. So bk will simply be equal to real part of ak. We know odd component of x of n is defined like this: x of n minus x of minus n divided by 2. Using linearity property and time reversal property, we can write the Fourier series coefficients of this. Let's call it ck is going to be equal to ak minus a minus k divided by 2. But again, the signals are real, so a conjugate of k will be equal to a minus k. We can replace a minus k by a conjugate of k. Now, assume ak is a plus jb. Then a conjugate of k is a minus jb. So ak minus a conjugate of k will be a and minus a gets cancelled, plus jb minus minus jb becomes plus 2jb. Divided by 2, you simply gets jb. So ck is j times imaginary part of ak. This is exactly what we have written over here. Let's go to the last property, Parseval's relation. Assume we have a signal x of n, it is periodic with a period n. Fourier series coefficients of x of n are ak. Then according to this property, 1 by n times summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values of magnitude of x of n squared will be equal to summation where k can take any n consecutive integer values magnitude of ak squared. First, we have to understand the terms in the RHS and LHS. On the left hand side, there is 1 by n summation over one period square of magnitude of x of n. This is simply how we define average power of a signal x of n in one period. To understand what we have on the right hand side, let us take x of n. X of n is summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values a, k, e raised to j, k, 2 pi by n, n. This means x of n is the summation of n exponential signals multiplied by their coefficients. Let us take the kth component signal a, k, e raised to j, k, 2 pi by n, n. Let us try to find out the average power of this component signal across one period. It is going to be 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values magnitude of the signal squared. Here we have e raised to j something. Let us take it as e raised to j omega. According to Euler's formula, this is cos omega plus j sine omega. Then its magnitude will be root of cos square omega plus sine square omega. But cos square omega plus sine square omega is 1. So this is root of 1 or 1. So the magnitude of this part is just 1. Let us remove it. So we get the average power of the component signal across one period is 1 by n summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values mod of ak squared. But the summation is with respect to the variable n. Ak is not a function of n. So ak square can come out of the summation. This will be 1 by n mod ak square summation n takes any n consecutive integer values of 1. So basically you're just counting 1 plus 1 plus 1 up to n terms. So this is simply equal to n. We get 1 by n magnitude of ak squared multiplied by n, or this is equal to magnitude of ak squared. What we got is the average power of one component signal. So if we want the sum of average power of all the individual signals, we can write summation k takes any n consecutive integer values so that we can consider all the component signals. Average power of the kth signal is magnitude of ak squared. This is exactly what we have in the RHS over here. So what we have on the RHS is the sum of average power of all the component signals. So basically what Parseval's relation is saying is the average power of the signal x of n is equal to sum of average power of the component signals. But obviously we have to prove this. Let us start from the LHS. 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values magnitude of x of n squared. Let us use the synthesis equation for x of n here. Then this becomes 1 by n summation where n takes any n consecutive values. Magnitude of x of n can be written as summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values. Ak e raised to j k 2 pi by n squared. Let us take this part out. Assume we have a complex signal a plus jb. Its conjugate is a minus jb. If you multiply both of them, you will get a square plus b square. But we know magnitude of a plus jb is root of a square plus b square. So we can say square of magnitude of a plus jb is the product of a plus jb and its conjugate a minus jb. Since this is the square of magnitude of x of n, this will be equal to x of n multiplied by x conjugate of n. So let's write it that way. X of n can be written as summation k takes any n consecutive integer values a k e raised to j k 2 pi by n. We have to multiply this with conjugate of x of n. So instead of ak, I'll put a conjugate of k. Instead of plus j, I will put minus j. So I will write summation. To differentiate between both of them, instead of k, I will take m. Because we know it doesn't matter what we call the variable because we are going to give the limit anyways. So m takes any n consecutive integer values. A m conjugate e raised to minus j m 2 pi by n. We have two summations. Let us put them together. Let us put ak and a conjugate of m together and the exponentials together. Let us combine these two terms by adding their exponents. We'll get e raised to minus j m minus k 2 pi by n. Let's replace it. Let us replace this part by this whole thing. Then the equation will become like this. We have three summations, one based on n, one based on k, and one based on m. Let us change their orders. I'll bring this one over here. The summation is based on the variable n, so ak and a conjugate of m can come out of the summation. Now let us take this part out. There are two things that can happen. We have an m minus k. If m is equal to k, then the summation becomes summation n takes any n consecutive integer values e raised to m is equal to k, so m minus k becomes 0, e raised to 0, or summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values 1. So you're counting 1 plus 1 plus 1 n times, you're getting n. If m is not equal to k, then you're taking a summation for n consecutive integer value of n e raised to minus j something. Let us call it e raised to minus j omega. We know e raised to minus j omega is cos omega minus j sine omega. I'm going to put it over here instead of e raised to minus j omega. So you're technically taking summation of cos omega across one period. It is 0. Summation of sine omega across one period is also 0. So if m is not equal to k, this is equal to 0. So we can write this summation is 0 if m is not equal to k. It is n if m is equal to k. So obviously we don't have to take the case where m is not equal to k, because in that case this will become 0, so that means the whole thing becomes 0. So for m is equal to k, we get 1 by n summation where n takes any n consecutive values of magnitude of x of n squared will be equal to 1 by n summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values, summation where m takes any n consecutive integer values, a conjugate of m. What we have over here will be replaced by n. So I'll simply put n. But m is equal to k. So let's replace all m's by k. Then the two summations become the same. We don't have to write it twice. We'll remove one. We have ak multiplied by a conjugate of k. If we multiply a complex function a plus jb with its conjugate a minus jb, we get a square plus b square, which is actually the square of magnitude of a plus jb. So here, instead of ak multiplied by a conjugate of k, I can write square of magnitude of ak. Let us replace it. We have an n over here, we have an n over here. They get cancelled. So we get 1 by n summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values of square of magnitude of x of n is equal to summation where k can take any consecutive n integer values of square of magnitude of ak, which is exactly what we have over here. So according to Parsifal's relation, average period in a periodic signal is simply the sum of average powers in its n harmonic component signals. Let us now solve a problem. Here we have to find the signal x of n. It is given that x of n is periodic with a period 6. Summation from n equal to 0 to 5 of x of n is 2. Summation from n equal to 2 to 7 minus 1 raised to n x of n is 1. It is also given x of n has a minimum power per period among the set of signals satisfying the three conditions. That means there can be more than one signal that satisfies all the first three conditions. Among them, our signal x of n has the minimum power per period. Let us take the second detail given. It is given that summation from n equal to 0 to 5 x of n is equal to 2. But we know period of x of n is n equal to 6. So when you take from n equal to 0 to 5, you are technically taking 6 consecutive integer values for n. So this is actually n taking n consecutive integer values. Previously, we learned A0 is the average value of the signal across one period. That is, A0 is 1 by n, summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values of x of n. But according to this, the summation is equal to 2. So we can write A0 is equal to 1 divided by n is 6 multiplied by the summation is 2. So A0 is 1 by 3. Now let's take the third condition. It is given summation from n equals 2 to 7 minus 1 raised to n x of n is equal to 1. Here we are taking the summation from 2 to 7. From 2 to 7 also we are taking 6 consecutive integer values. So this is also the same as n taking any n consecutive integer values. Let us replace it by that so it is easier for us to understand. Over here, we have minus 1 to the power n. Instead of writing minus 1, I am going to write e raised to minus j pi because according to Euler's formula, this is cos pi minus j sin pi. Cos pi is minus 1, sin pi is 0. So e raised to minus j pi is minus 1. I am going to replace minus 1 over here by e raised to minus j pi. So I can write summation where n takes n consecutive integer values, e raised to minus j pi to the power n x of n is equal to 1. E raised to minus j pi to the power n is e raised to minus j pi n. Let us replace it. Let us put x of n first and then e raised to minus j pi n. We define ak like this. Ak is 1 by n summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values x of n e raised to minus j k 2 pi by n. Over here I have a pi. I can write it as 2 pi by 6 multiplied by 3. I'm going to replace it by that. Then I get summation where n takes any n consecutive integer values x of n e raised to minus j 2 pi by 6 multiplied by 3n. This is equal to 1. Let us compare this with this. Summation is the same. X of n is the same. 2 pi by n is 2 pi by 6. That is okay because n is equal to 6. N is still there. We have k here. In the place of k, here we have 3. So what we have over here could be ak if it is divided by n. So let us divide both sides of this equation by n, which is 6. So I will write 1 by 6 summation where n can take any n consecutive integer values. N here is 6. X of n e raised to minus j 2 pi by 6 3n. This will be equal to 1 by 6. But what we have over here is exactly this, where k is 3. So this is equal to a3. This is the coefficient of the third component. a3 is equal to 1 by 6. So we got a0 is 1 by 3 and a3 is 1 by 6. According to the fourth property, x of n has minimum power per period. We know average power per period is given by summation k equal to 0 to 5. That is, we are taking all the component harmonic signals. Magnitude of ak squared. We saw this while we proved the Parseval's relation. So basically, to get the average power, we take the coefficients in one period, square them and add them. So power is, if you give k equal to 0, a0 square, k equal to 1, a1 square, then a2 square, a3 square, a4 square, and a5 square. We already know a0 is 1 by 3 and a3 is 1 by 6. According to the question, x of n has the minimum power per period. But we already know a0 is 1 by 3 and a3 is 1 by 6. So we can't do anything about them. So the condition for p to be minimum should be that a1, a2, a4, a5, all of these should be 0. What if they are negative? You're taking square, right? So it doesn't matter if it is negative or positive. Only if it is 0, you're going to get the least value for p. So we can write, to minimize p, a1, a2, a4 and a5 should be equal to 0. So we can write x of n is equal to a0 e raised to j 0 2 pi by 6n plus a3 e raised to j 3 2 pi by 6n. This corresponds to k equal to 0. This corresponds to k equal to 3. This is e raised to 0, which is 1. Let us replace it. 3 multiplied by 2 pi by 6 is pi. Let us replace it. So x of n is a0 plus a3 e raised to pi n. But a0 is 1 by 3, a3 is 1 by 6. So we can write this is equal to 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6 e raised to j pi n. Now e raised to j pi n can be written as e raised to j pi raised to the power n. Let us replace it. But e raised to j pi is cos pi plus j sin pi. Cos pi is minus 1, sin pi is 0. So e raised to j pi is minus 1. Let us replace it. So finally, we get our signal x of n is 1 by 3 plus minus 1 raised to n 1 by 6. If you give n equal to 0, you will get 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6. If you give n equal to 1, you will get 1 by 3 minus 1 by 6. If you give n equal to 2, you will get 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6 again. On the other hand, n equal to minus 1, you will get 1 by 3 minus 1 by 6. 1 by 3 minus 1 by 6 is 1 by 6 and 1 by 3 plus 1 by 6 is 1 by 2. If we plot this on a graph, this is how it will look like. It is 1 by 2, 1 by 6, 1 by 2, 1 by 6, 1 by 2, 1 by 6. But doesn't that mean the period of this signal is 2? The question said the period of the signal is 6. Well, both are correct. 2 is actually the fundamental period of this signal. The question did not say 6 is the fundamental period. The question said x of n is periodic with n, which is true. After every 6 samples, it is going to repeat because 6 is a multiple of the fundamental period 2. Let us now solve another problem. We have to find the signal x of n. Its Fourier series coefficients bk are given as sine square of 3 pi k by 7 divided by 7 sine square pi k by 7. The equation of bk reminds me of something that we learned in the last video. We learned the Fourier series coefficients of a square wave are given in this form: 1 by n sine of 2 pi k n1 plus 1 by 2 divided by n divided by sine of pi k by n. n1 plus 1 by 2 can be written as 2n1 plus 1 divided by 2. Let us replace it. We have a 2 over here and a 2 over here. Let's cancel them. Now, if 2 and 1 plus 1 is equal to 3 and n is equal to 7, we'll get ak is equal to 1 divided by n is 7 sine of pi k. 2n1 plus 1 is 3 divided by n is 7 divided by sine of pi k divided by n is 7. Pi k into 3 can be written as 3 pi k. This equation gives the Fourier series coefficients of a square wave that looks like this. Its period is n and it is 1 between minus n1 and plus n1. Let us compare with this one. Here n is 7. We took 2n1 plus 1 to be 3. So we can write n1 is going to be 3 minus 1 by 2 or 1. So the square wave whose Fourier series coefficient can be given by this expression will look like this. Its period is 7, so it repeats at every multiple of 7. n1 is 1, so it has value 1 between minus 1 and plus 1. Let us call it y of n. Now let's take ak and square it. Then we get 1 by 7 square sine square of 3 pi k divided by 7 divided by sine square of pi k divided by 7. Let us multiply the right hand side and the left hand side with 7. We have a 7 square. Let's cancel 1 7 here and 1 7 here. Isn't this exactly what we have over here in the question? So we can write 7ak square is equal to bk. Let us bring in a property that we learned. According to the periodic convolution property, Fourier series coefficients of periodic convolution of x of n and y of n will be n multiplied by ak and bk. Over here, we got bk is 7ak square, but I can write it this way: 7 multiplied by ak multiplied by ak. So 7 could be the n, ak could be ak could be also bk. which means we are taking the convolution of the signal corresponding to ak with itself. So we can conclude x of n is actually the periodic convolution of the square wave y of n by itself. So to find x of n, all we have to do is find the periodic convolution of y of n by itself. Let us do that. X of n is going to be summation where r can take any n consecutive integer values, y of r multiplied by y of n minus r. This is the periodic convolution of y of n with itself. This is how y of n looks like. Since the period of y of n is 7, we can take the summation for any 7 consecutive integers of n. So I will take from minus 3 to plus 3. So we can write summation where r takes values from minus 3 to plus 3 of y of r multiplied by y of n minus r. So we need the product of y of r and y of n minus r. Let us first plot y of r. We already have y of n here. So to make it y of r, simply change the variable n into r. Now we need y of n minus r. This is how y of n minus r looks like when n is equal to 0. This is y of minus r, but since y of r is symmetric across the y-axis, it's going to look exactly like y of r. Let us just do the convolution for one period because we know it is just going to repeat for every multiple of the period 7. To get x of 0, let us multiply the two signals right away and add what we get. At minus 3 we have 0, at minus 2 we have 0, at minus 1 we have 1, so 1 multiplied by 1 we get 1, plus 1 multiplied by 1, 1, plus 1 multiplied by 1, 1. So x of 0 is 3. To get x of 1, let us shift this signal 1 units towards the left. So x of 1 is going to be 0 gets multiplied by 1, we get 0. 1 gets multiplied by 1, we get 1, plus 1 gets multiplied by 1, we get 1, plus 1 gets multiplied by 0, it is 0. So x of 1 is 2. To get x of 2, we have to shift it towards the left again. So to get x of 2, let us multiply. Here 0 gets multiplied with 1, 0 gets multiplied with 1. At minus 1, 1 gets multiplied with 1, so we get 1. At 0, 1 gets multiplied by 0. At 1 also 1 gets multiplied by 0. So x of 2 is simply equal to 1. To get x of 3, we can shift it again towards the left side. But then we'll have 1 at these 3 points and 0 at minus 1. Which means there will not be any overlap between y of r and y of n minus r. So x of 3 is going to be 0. On the other side, let's try to find out x of minus 1. For that, the signal has to be shifted towards the right from the 0th position. It will look like this. If we multiply, at minus 1, 1 gets multiplied by 0. At 0, 1 gets multiplied by 1. At 1, 1 gets multiplied by 1. At 2, 1 gets multiplied by 0. So we get 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. For x of minus 2, you have to shift it 1 units towards right again. And due to symmetry, you're going to get exactly what you got for x of 2. This is going to be equal to 1. Similarly, x of minus 3 is going to be equal to 0. If we plot this on a graph, this is how it will look like. Now the same thing is going to happen between these 3 and these 3. And these 3 and these 3. Or basically at every multiple of 7. So if we also include that, x of n will look like this. We can conclude that this is the function whose Fourier series coefficients are of the form sine square of 3 pi k by 7 divided by 7 times sine square of pi k by 7. So that's all about it for today. See you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.